leaders are missing the boat if they think that AI is just about efficiency and cutting head count, because the true potential of AI is
The following is a conversation with Karen Zeigler. She's the CEO of the Human Score, a standard for measuring how human centered an organization or company truly is. If you're new here, which I'm guessing you probably are, hi, my name is Ria, and this is a podcast about tech, ethics, and entrepreneurship, two of my favorite things. Some of my previous videos have been about the ethics behind period tracking apps or the ethics behind space technology and going to space. So yeah, if that's something that interests you, maybe you can check out some of my other videos and maybe subscribe. Yeah, but let's get on with the episode. Get ready for a mind-bending episode as usual. Okay, hi. I would like to welcome today Karen to the podcast. She is the CEO at the Human Score, which we will talk about a lot in this interview. But yeah, I'm excited to get started.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Ria. It's exciting to be here with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. So my first question is just an icebreaker, I guess. It's something I like to ask a lot of my guests is, what's your first memory in tech? It could be something like a childhood vivid experience or like your first memory of just being fascinated by tech.
Yeah. Well, I've always been an early adopter of tech. If you look at the bell curve, I'm on that early adopter edge, and so, I have lived long enough to be before tech and then after tech. So I think probably my first memory, and it kind of goes towards my knack for organization and structure, was the Palm Pilot, which I don't know if you even know what that is, but
I
it was
have no
kind of the
clue.
like the first smartphone that ever was, and it had the little keyboard and a stylus for writing. So it was cool, and I was into the Palm Pilot before anyone ever really got into it. It was a precursor of the smartphone, so it wasn't connected to a phone at the time. It was more like a calendar or an organizational tool than a phone. But yeah, that was my first interaction with technology, and kind of on the cutting edge of, what was coming out, what gadget was new. And so I've kind of followed that throughout my life, trying out gadgets before anyone they really catch on with anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, that's so fascinating. I've never actually heard of the Palm Pilot. I'll have to, after this interview,
Yes.
go search up like what is this? But yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you've definitely had a love for tech from a young age, it seems. So yeah, now I'd
Mhm.
like to pivot a little more into the Human Score, which is obviously your company, and what is your, I guess, mission and goal? So this is a
Yeah.
tech ethics podcast, so it's a pretty well-fitting topic. So yeah, I'm just wondering
Yeah.
what your kind of goal is.
Yeah. Well, the goal for the human score is to make sure that the future of work is more human, that it is, humans empowered by AI, not deleted by them. And, the story and the background behind the human score was our one of our co-founders, Perry Noppert. He is also the leader of the Octopus Movement, which is a nonprofit organization that's global.
Mhm.
He is in the Netherlands, and in the Netherlands, unlike the US, they have something called the Nutri Score. So if you go shopping for food, you can look at the packaging of food, and it has a Nutri Score, which tells you how healthy the food is for human consumption. And so he had been an expat family traveling when his kids were younger, and he was always frustrated by the school systems in every country he went to. It was all about, getting the kids onto the system of the school and not necessarily taking care of the kids and their needs and all the adjusting that goes on. And so when he saw the Nutri Score in the grocery store one day, he thought, what if organizations had a score, which turned into the human
Oh.
score, that determined how healthy they were for humans. And so, that's how the human score came to be. We wanted to create a score that showed how human organizations are, and it focuses on five dimensions: um, work design, culture, structure, decision making, and fairness. And so we help give organizations that human-centered lens to determine how human-centric they are, which to transition to AI and that whole evolution, I just shared an article from Business Insider today. You know, leaders are missing the boat if they think that AI is just about efficiency and cutting head count, because the true potential of AI is the innovative potential that it can unlock in the humans when they don't have to sit there and grind over tasks that AI is starting to do for us. And so, yeah, that's where we're at and where we're headed and what our role is in helping companies become more human centered.
Hmm.
Yes, efficient by AI, but more effective in the way that they utilize and redeploy the humans that are freed up by the AI.
Yeah, I love that concept. I definitely think organizations, businesses should be more centered around the humans themselves working them. I'm wondering, kind of, I guess, to get this score, what are some of the things that you guys evaluate within an organization, for example?
Yeah, well, the dashboard that the Human Score has created gives business clients a look into those five areas I mentioned: work design, structure, culture, fairness, and decision making. And so, through a survey of their employees, there are some very specific questions that get to whether or not those areas are adverse to their success, favorable, ideal. And so from that score, it's a real-time diagnostic tool. They can begin to really turn their change initiatives from throwing spaghetti at a wall to a more targeted focus on what's going to make their organization more human centric and run more effectively, not just efficiently. And so, say for instance, an organization gets a poor score in work design, which is perfect timing for AI, right? Because work design is being recreated already because of AI. To bring in that human element of it just is going to make it work more effective, faster. And so, say they get a low score in work design, and so they can then begin to target their initiatives either with the human score. We have a human centered consultant collective that they can draw upon to help co create with their employees. Or if they know where they're headed and how to do that, then they're free to go on. But say that that initiative is 3 months long, so they can go back to the dashboard after 3, 6 months, and then they can re-diagnose and determine, okay, was that initiative successful? Did it move the needle the way we wanted it to? Um, what did we miss? Did it improve things? And so businesses today talk a lot about it, continuous improvement, but there really oftentimes isn't a focus or even a way of measuring whether or not that's actually happening. And the human score gives them that tool to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, I love the idea that there's a second, benchmark to compare to the first one. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering also just a little bit more about you stepping away from the human score. Your
Mhm.
past experiences, what kind of led to this moment of CEO at the human score and founding this great
Yeah.
concept of scoring organizations based on humanity. Yeah.
Well, my background is kind of varied and nonlinear, I would think. I
Yeah.
did spend time in the financial industry where I was in the VP at Bank of America, as well as in the investment bank, and then ventured out on my own to coaching and consulting. But what I discovered, I think it was 2016, was just a love of design thinking specifically, and innovation.
Hmm.
My mind is always putting multiple ideas together and reconfiguring them in a different way that, you haven't thought of before. And so when I discovered design thinking was a thing, I went out and got a degree in it. And I always used it intuitively and as a practice for leading others. So in leadership and in management. So when I got the degree, it was really all about, designing products and services, which is useful. But I think today, as you know, the complexities of business has gotten so challenging that designing the human piece of things is just as important as designing the products and services because when you think about AI and if it takes away all the tasks that humans are doing, then how do you begin to recognize what that potential is? And even if you can recognize it as a leader, how do you begin to put all those pieces together to be a conducive team for going towards whatever your vision is? And so that's part of my love in designing human teams and how the teams interact with technology and how they all get in alignment with the vision that the leader has for their company and getting them all moving in the right direction. Because quite frankly, part of the dissatisfaction in organizations today is the humans, they don't feel like they're part of a greater purpose. They don't align with the visions. In many cases, the visions are egocentric and not human centered. And so that's difficult to get in alignment with. And, depending on the level that a person works in it in the organization, they're pretty much just stuck on, okay, what's my next task? That's all I'm here to do.
Yeah, I mean,
When the,
I love how you're really focusing on also the employee, like the human employee, obviously, and not
hmm
just, the executives. And you were talking about like the egocentric mission of a company is often like hurting the actual
hmm
employees. Yeah, I find that concept actually really interesting. I haven't thought about that before. But yeah, just like diving into more of you, I was kind of thinking like what exactly led you to joining, the Human Scores mission, like
hmm
transitioning for, you said like VP of Bank of America, you were going through kind of a more traditional route and you got
hmm
curious by design thinking and, you pursued that. Yeah, I
hmm
just love to hear more. And, if there's any people out there wanting to take that kind of unpredictable path,
Yeah.
advice for them.
Well, I think whether people are intentionally taking the unpredictable path or they're going to be forced to take the unpredictable path because so many companies are focused on eliminating employees with AI. I think, the opportunity for people to really discover what they were meant to do, whether it's inside an organization or outside, is where we're at in humanity. I was just like I've mentioned, I think I just shared an article from Business Insider about how so many organizations are cutting employees because of AI. And that's a great opportunity for people to begin to explore those unexpected paths. And so, there's a lot of self discovery and self awareness that goes into it. And I think, a lot of people, I know myself, started with, studying my personality. I remember I was introduced to Myers-Briggs when I was at the bank. And
Mhm.
so when I was at the bank, it was really almost used as a punishment at the time because everyone was focused on what your faults were and how that affected the team. And yes, that's important. You need to know that and be self-aware of that. But when it comes to fulfilling your potential, it's really more about what are the strengths, what are the things that come natural to you, what are those things that people compliment you for, and you go, oh, that was nothing because it feels so effortless to you. Those are the breadcrumbs along the way to finding, what you're here for and what your passions are and what really lights you on your fire. You may not find, like I did, that my brain kind of thinks like a design thinker before I even knew what design thinking was. It may be something else, but as you begin to study um, personality types, you can learn a lot about yourself, and you can begin to look at and evaluate jobs in a different light. Okay, this has you know, uses my strengths in this way, or this uses a lot of things that are not my strengths. So it's probably not the ideal job for me. And I went on to study myself in a bunch of different ways. I started with Myers-Briggs, but I love the Enneagram. The Enneagram's another personality test and the reason I like that one, because it goes beyond just the way you think, which Myers-Briggs is really all about your thought, to what fears stop you and what things draw you forward. And so beginning to learn about, okay, these are fears that are so subconscious, I didn't even realize that they were there. How can I begin to work through those? So, that those are just a couple of ways in which I've learned about myself, and that has guided my path in ways that may not be as obvious to someone who's looking for a certain career path in an organization.
Wow, yeah. I mean, that's definitely powerful advice to, like I haven't really talked about the Myers-Briggs personality test to anyone else other than like friends and stuff. But yeah, it is such a interesting tool to explore, like you said, how you think. But yeah,
Mhm.
I'm excited to try the other one you mentioned, which was the Enneagram. And
Enneagram. The Enneagram is the oldest personality type, and it goes back to the
oh wow.
Greeks, I believe it was. And
Oh.
so it has a more philosophical, spiritual, maybe connotation than the Myers-Briggs. But and it also has a lot of nuances. Like there's nine number. It's numbered for some reason, which is strange. But I'm a five, which is very analytical and strategic, but there's also fours and there's also sixes. And so they call those your wings, and fours are very creative. Um, and sixes are more rigid, but problem solvers. And
Mhm.
so you can lean more to one wing or the other. It's very nuanced, but I think when you begin to study yourself through that lens, especially it talks about your core fear and your core desire, what those things are really telling, and as you become aware of those and how they show up in your life, it really can snap you out of some of the subconscious programming and conditioning you might have gotten in childhood or in school or whatever, and more into alignment with that, who you truly are and what you can truly accomplish.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really curious to see for myself too, because I noticed one thing is really just, this fear of failure and just kind of
Yeah.
getting over that to just start. But like you've obviously transitioned, you've made a big jump to leading a company
Hmm.
and like promoting this initiative. So yeah, I just really enjoyed your advice on exploring yourself first and then taking steps into your career because I think that's more insightful than just, apply to 100 jobs or like, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's a solid piece of advice. But yeah, I don't want
Yeah.
to take up too much of your time. So,
Hmm.
just as kind of a final question, do you have any final thoughts that you want to share with the audience? Anything about either your company or, your life, any other advice? Because you do give pretty good advice. Yeah, any last message you want to leave with the audience?
Sure. I would add a third personality test that is very helpful, that
Mhm.
I think is even more cutting edge. I was involved with this gentleman in his first cohort of training consultants, and it's called Meet Yourself.
Oh.
And Meet Yourself is a personality assessment also, but it takes into three parts: your DNA. Um, there's like 24 markers in your DNA that tell you what your skills are. There's how you think. So, not Myers-Briggs, but an element of that kind of personality. And then your skills and behavior. And so that goes to, your degrees, what things you've learned and done in your life. And so, it tells you when you meet yourself how in alignment you are. Does your
Mhm.
DNA and the way you think and the skills you've built in your life, do they align? Or, through conditioning or other things, have you strayed away from what your DNA is? Because you are actually wired from birth for certain things. And those are the key pieces, especially in this day of age. I think there's 16 out of the 24 that cannot be replaced by AI,
Mhm.
that are totally human qualities. So you may want to even start there, but definitely the Enneagram's helpful for fear and understanding what you desire and what you want. Other advice. Wow. I wish. I could have started a podcast at your age, Ria. I just think that that's an amazing way to learn and also an amazing way to explore where you're drawn to, right?
Yeah.
I mean, already you've picked a lane with tech and innovation and ethics, and so, but that's a vast lane. So
Hmm.
through your podcast, you're going to begin to narrow that down and see what really excites you. Um, which is a totally different way. When I went to college, we had this career development class and we had to interview three professionals. So I interviewed someone in the banking world, someone in the insurance world, and I forget the third one, but here you can interview a whole world of people that
Yeah.
are not even outside your door and learn from. So technology is amazing, and regardless of what age you are, you can use it to really build a better life and learn not only about yourself but about the world and humans in general and how you can serve them. Because that's the point. Whatever you dig up from within yourself, that gift that you discover through self-awareness and self-learning, it, it's only of use if it's used in service to other. That's even how you make a profitable life. It's in service to others. So yeah, that would be my encouragement. If you want to make an impact not only on yourself but the world at large, find out what that gift is and begin to use it to the best of your abilities, and technology will help you accelerate that use of it as well.
I mean, that is just so powerful. I thank you so much for being here and saying all of that stuff. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
being here.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too, Rita.
Thank you.